We're just going to jump into it today, boys and girls. Today we're going to be talking about the Season 5 Formula E teams and drivers. I know a lot of you guys, I mean a lot of you guys that are going to watch this video, probably have never seen Formula E before. And the reason I know this is that Season 5 Formula E is getting so much more attention than ever before. New drivers, new teams, that brand new second generation car. It's going to be a brilliant year of Formula E. But I thought, well, I've done my beginner's guide, I've tried to explain a few different bits and bobs, but things that really get me into motorsport are the teams and the drivers. Now, you might think that's a little bit strange, but I know I find it really hard to follow a series if, first of all, I don't know who's in it, and also if I don't really support anyone. So, when I was first getting into Formula E, that was something I really struggled with, because a lot of the names I didn't really know. There were the likes of your PK Juniors. I thought, oh, I know him. Sebastian Buemi, I know him. But apart from that, there wasn't really anyone. And so, eventually John Verne joined, and that was another big name. And this year, we're finally getting some, I suppose, really big names with the likes of Felipe Massa, arguably the most high-profile driver ever in Formula E. We've also got the, I suppose, highly rated Stoffel Vandoorne, someone who's really struggled in McLaren in Formula 1 and will be moving over to Formula E next year. We've also got the likes of Pascal Wehrlein, ex-Mercedes, young driver. And then we've got drivers like Alexander Sims coming in, and Gary Paffett, who won DTM last year, who, yes, they're maybe not the most credited drivers in single-seater racing, but when it comes to racing in general, they're pretty good. And it's going to be really interesting to see those dynamics alongside the likes of young talent like Mitch Evans, who's really developing into this really top standard Formula E driver. And then you've got almost veterans now of Formula E, Lucas Di Grassi, Sebastian Buemi. We're going to be covering everyone today in this video, as well as the new teams. Almost a little prediction in this one, but my full predictions for the season will be coming out next week. And this is a quick announcement that next week there'll be a Formula E video every single day in the build-up to the brand new season, starting next Saturday on the 15th of December. Right, let's get stuck into it then. I've jibber-jabbered for about 2 minutes now, so let's crack on then with what you guys have came to see, and that is the Formula E Season 5 teams and drivers. And we're going to start this episode probably not where most people would expect. And I mean, if you're new to Formula E, you wouldn't have a clue, but HWA Racelab. Now, why I've chosen to do this team first, is because they're a brand new team to Season 5 for Formula E. So if you have seen Formula E before, you won't know anything about these guys. Maybe you do. Maybe you keep up with Formula E, and I'm very impressed with you, sir or madam. But HWA Racelab basically are the Mercedes team in Formula E, and next year, it is highly rumoured and highly likely that they will become out a fully fleshed out Mercedes team. And many people know as well, in other forms of motor racing, I believe that HWA in DTM, or used to be DTM, that's a funny situation going on there. But it's basically just Mercedes, just rebranded. Very similar to the likes of, let me think of something quickly, Nissan. Nissan and Renault, they're owned by the same parent company, so it's very, very similar. But I think HWA and Mercedes are even closer. Hopefully you can understand what I mean. It might as well be Mercedes. Like I say, it's their first ever year in Formula E, so they've never raced whatsoever. It's a completely brand new team built up from the ground. So you'll see this year that there's a couple of teams that you could argue are new teams, but they're just sort of evolutions of old teams. But HWA are a brand new team, and incredibly, they have taken on 2 rookies. Now, you might have expected, oh, they'll take someone, I don't know, like a Jerome D'Ambrosio, who's maybe been in Formula E a little while, out of a seat, you know, that kind of driver. But no, Mercedes have gone all out here and picked 2 brand new drivers to the sport, both with big pedigree, starting with the man I spoke about a minute ago, Stoffel Vandoorne. He will be making his debut on Saturday at the Saudi Arabia E-Prix. Now, Stoffel Vandoorne, I think, will do very well in Formula E. He definitely has the talent. We haven't really seen it too much in Formula 1. That's something that I think people will be a little bit wary of, that he's gone under the radar in Formula 1, and after only 2 seasons has been booted out and shifted over to Formula E. And I can imagine some people are thinking, well, that's a little bit sketchy. You know, I understand that a lot of people still think that Formula E is an F1 driver's retirement home. I understand that. And I think this year especially, you can see the talent coming in is definitely almost changing that stigma. But at the same time, Vandoorne was quick. And I think a lot of people would agree, maybe deserved one more season in Formula 1, not up against the likes of Fernando Alonso. Maybe up against Carlos Sainz. I believe that would have been a nice little almost showing of Vandoorne's talents. However, you guys know how much I love Formula E, so I'm a big fan of this guy. If you guys have been around on this channel for a while, you'll know going into the 2018 F1 season, I was really excited to see Vandoorne. You know, and to be honest, I was gutted to see him have such a difficult season, out-qualified by his teammate in every single race. So, Formula E next year, I think he'll do a much better job. A new environment, a fresh environment for Stoffel Vandoorne. And I think in a series where it's a little bit easier to overtake, I think he'll excel. And I think he's one to look out for next year. The big question mark though at HWA is their pace. Because we can't go off previous years. They're a brand new entity to the sport. And part of me thinks there'll be a midfield team almost. Although in Formula E, if you're not aware, there's not really a midfield and a Formula 1 and a Formula 1.5. There's none of that nonsense. It's all really anyone's game. So if the driver's quick, then they can have a real title fight on their hands. And I think Vandoorne is good enough. And I think he'll be up there. Which I don't think will surprise many people, if I'm being totally honest. But some people who, I suppose, really took a dislike to Vandoorne at McLaren, you might not be that interested. But I think he is someone that'll be definitely in the running for this year's Formula E title. Next driver in the other seat next to him is Gary Paffett. Someone that I'm not really too familiar with. But Gary Paffett has won two, I believe it's two, German DTM series. One in 2005 and then again in 2018. So, look, we don't really know of his capabilities. And again, this is another big unknown. But I love the fact that he's given it a go. And that HWA are going to give him a shot. Because he seems like such a nice guy. And he's quick. So why not? We've seen Andre Lotterer, multiple WEC world champion. Many people thought, well, he wasn't great in that one-off race in Formula 1. He's not a single-seater racer. But he's been brilliant. Well, brilliant's pretty a stretch, but last year was his rookie year. Picked up multiple podiums and almost got the independent team Techeetah to the team's world championships. So, look, really solid job from Lotterer. Like I say, almost mirrors Gary Paffett. So I'm looking forward to this team next season. And I think if you're a new fan, HWA, Vandoorne and Paffett would be a really nice one to support because you're in it together. If you know what I mean. You're both starting off as a fresh. You're learning, you're evolving. So why not HWA? But I think next year, not going to do too many predictions, but I think they'll have a solid year. Don't think they'll be at the back. And I think they'll be one to keep an eye out for. Let's move on then to the next team. And again, almost a new team. BMW Andretti. Now, Andretti have been in Formula E since Season 1, but this year, BMW coming on fully on board this year, BMW, becoming a BMW proper works team this year, and already, again, I don't want to give away too many of my predictions early doors, but they look like they're going to have a real good season, which is brilliant for them, considering they've struggled a bit in Formula E, arguably the worst team last year, and this man, Antonio Felix da Costa, one race win in his history in Formula E, but the talent's been there. He's not been terrible, but the cards he's been dealt and the cars he's been dealt have been a bit sketchy. And I think this man next year, well, this year and next year, is going to be a real one to keep an eye out for, and I think a title favourite is almost an understatement. I really do believe that. Partnering him is this man, Alexander Sims, a driver that we don't really know all that much about, really. A very similar sort of story to Gary Paffett. Has never, ever been anywhere near Formula E before. It's almost a random punt that BMW have taken on. I believe he was a BMW driver, works driver in other series, so he's definitely one to keep an eye out for. But if you know him and he's the reason you've come over to Formula E, then you'll know quite a bit about him. But I think he's taken place in Le Mans, British GT. It's a host of different championships. I believe he took part in Formula 3 as well. So there has been some single-seater experience, but Alexander seems again into one that's a bit of an unknown and will be an interesting one to watch next year. I'm not expecting major things, and I think out of those two, DaCosta will be the favourite. But in a car like this, like it seems to be in testing, anything's possible. Anything's possible in Formula E, so keep an eye out. I seem to be saying that a lot, don't I? Because again, I'm going to say it again, Venturi, a team that has a lot of almost a fresh air around it. You know, it's not just been, you know, lightly dusted over. No, this is at the full shebang, the full treatment, the full almost upgrade. Someone has smashed the upgrade button on Venturi, and they've sort of gone now from this midfield team to a team that really want to attack and win the World Championship. And again, they've got a brand new rookie. They've also got a new team principal in Susie Wolff. But there he is, the man you all know from Formula 1, 11-time Grand Prix winner, almost Formula 1 World Champion, Felipe Massa. What a guy. I'm really loving the fact he's going to be in Formula E next year. He's a cheeky chappy, is Felipe. I think we all agree with that one. He's been seen on the grid many times with Formula E. I know that doesn't really mean a fat lot, just walking up and down the grid, but I think he's really invested in this. Obviously, he's not the Felipe Massa of old. And again, he's been out of racing for a year. Might be a bit overhyped, if anything, Felipe Massa. But I think, and I've spoken about him many times, he's a brilliant draw. And I think, probably for you guys, he's a factor that's probably brought you over to Formula E. Maybe try it out a little bit. So, Massa, really looking forward to seeing him in the car. I'm not too sure if I think Venturi will make that big step up for the title this year. But keep your eye out. Now, I won't say keep your eye out because I think Massa will have a lot of attention on him this year, so he will not be missed. But this guy might go under the radar. Eduardo Mortara. I always butcher his name, but it is Mortara. Now, difficult first year in Formula E. Missed, I think, 3 races because of the WEC Championship. Almost got a win in his first weekend, but didn't quite settle into the team. So he'll be hoping for a better year, because I think if not, Venturi might give him the chop if it doesn't go too well. But that's not wishful thinking, so hopefully for Eduardo it goes better than I've just said. Right then, Jaguar, a big name in Formula E. Their 3rd season now in Formula E. I like Jaguar. They are one of my favourite teams, I can't deny. There's something almost fresh about Jaguar's approach to Formula E. This year they've also set up a support series. So if you don't really know what a support series is, it's basically at a weekend, the I-Pace trophy will just take part before the Formula E pace, and it'll be a load of Jaguar I-Paces just razzing it around the circuit in a separate championship. But here's their first driver, arguably their team leader, if you will, Season 1 World Champion, Nelson Piquet Jr. Yes, you can remember him. Deliberately crashed in Formula 1 in Singapore to get Fernando Alonso that win. Probably that's the thing he's most notable for. Wasn't the best in Formula 1 and has struggled in Formula E of late, but still that Season 1 World Champion with I think only 2 wins in his Formula E career. A very solid first year from Piquet Jr., but he's definitely not one of my favourites. A bit of a temper, but a good driver. This man, their other driver, Mitch Evans, a very friendly guy. Again, another very cheeky chappy, and someone who, like I said earlier, is really progressing now in Formula E and looks like he could be the man leading this team charge. And Jaguar have improved every single year. This could be the first year where they really put a fight on the title and finally get their first win. Mitch Evans there got their first pole position this year in Switzerland. Virgin Racing, or as this year they're called, Envision Virgin, which again, it's a rebrand. But for some reason, they're claiming that they're a completely brand new team. But then on half of their almost marketing material, they keep saying that they've been in it since Season 1. Which is very strange, but their key man behind the wheel, their key man is Sam Bird. Not Sam Bird from Love Island. You know, that really triggered me at the time. But no, this man, Sam Bird, drives for Ferrari in WEC. But he's fought for the title, Sam Bird, every single season. And every year, it's gone down to the final weekend. And this man has lost every single time. Okay, so maybe he wasn't in the fight right to the last weekend, but if you get my gist, he's always been there. And in the car, which last year didn't look the best, especially at certain circuits, it was nowhere, this guy can pull performance out of a car. He really can. He's been one of my favourites since Formula E began in Season 1. And he's someone who, I didn't know who he was, if I'm just being totally honest, before I started watching Formula E. But this guy somehow, I don't want to say he's the Lewis Hamilton of Formula E. That's a big statement, of course. And I don't think Sam Bird's the best driver on the grid. But at the same time, somehow he always finds his little margins and picks up points. He's almost a Jenson Button of Formula E. I think that's a better way to put it. Just always finds a way to be there or thereabouts. And then returning to Formula E this year. This isn't a very flattering photo of Robin Friends, but I really struggled to find some of him. He'll be returning with Envision this year. Again, not a driver I was completely impressed with during his time in Formula E previous years. But a driver who's got that experience, and I think will be a nice, almost runner-up, number 2 driver to Sam Bird, and will be a welcome addition to Formula E. Again, not a driver I'm particularly fond of, Robin Friends, but having a Dutch driver in Formula E is very nice for Dutch fans. Now, Nissan, a brand new team. Yay! No, it's all a bit of a mess, to be honest. They're a brand new team, but they're Renault. They're rebranded. Renault and Nissan are the same company, so are they the same team? Yes, they are. They've kept their star driver, Sebastian Buemi, Season 2 world champion, the man with the most wins in Formula E history with 15 wins, which is more than a full season of Formula E. Again, I'm not particularly fond of Sebastian Buemi, which I know a lot of the Formula E fan base really are. He is their favourite driver, and he's quick, and he's brilliant in overtakes. I've got to respect that. But at the same time, he's got a bit of a temper, and we saw that Season 3. If you haven't seen that, look at his reaction when he loses the world title. It really put me off Sebastian Buemi. But last year, wasn't in a race-winning car, and he did grow on me a little bit. So his first season, his first season without a win last year. So hopefully he can grow this year with his teammate you can see on screen, Ollie Rowland. Someone that I loved in Formula 2. And I was a little bit gutted he never got a chance in Formula 1, to be honest. You can see him in his Williams overalls there. He was their third test driver. This seat was going to Alex Albon, but Albon's now driving in Formula 1. So Nissan have resketched their plans and they've come up with Ollie Rowland, which I love. Big fan of for Ollie Rowland. Audi. Woo! Audi! They are the team, boys and girls. They are the team. They've always been in the hunt. Always been in the hunt. But last year, that car was phenomenal. They won the team's championship, despite, I think, the first 7 races. Their star man, Lucas Di Grassi, we'll talk about in a sec, he didn't finish whatsoever any races for liability, but they still won the team's championship because their car was that good. There is Lucas Di Grassi, Season 3 world champion, winner of the first ever Formula E race. He's won races in every single season of Formula E. I think there's a crazy stat from last season that Lucas Di Grassi, obviously those first 6 races DNF'd, and then for the rest of the race of the year was on the podium. Every single race. He had an incredible season, ended up finishing 2nd in the championship. This man, what a driver he is, and again he'll be fighting for the championship. And then this guy, Daniel Abt, I know they've got their helmets on, so sorry about that, but it's really difficult to find nice pictures for Formula E, but I like helmets, you guys know that. Really improved last year in Formula E. I believe he picked up 3 wins in total. 1 didn't count, unfortunately for him, but he's really been improving, Daniel Abt, and this year I think will be a big year for him, and I think he can do well. So, again, keep your eye out for Daniel Abt. Techeetah. I think a lot of you guys will be big fans of Techeetah, an independent team that were 2 points off the team's world championship last year. And I think many of you will know, and this was probably a big draw to Formula E, that last year Techeetah and their star man, Jean-Eric Vergne, won the Formula E World Drivers' Championship. Now, Vergne will be a lot of people's favourite driver. Really, really quick on circuit, brilliant at making overtakes. He's definitely one of the best in Formula E. And if you want to see my video on top 5 Formula E drivers, that'll be in the top right hand corner on the I button. But Jean-Eric Vergne, he'll be one. That's definitely up there. He'll be getting wins. He'll be getting pole positions. He'll be in the fight for the title. And I think Techeetah this year, that have DS, so Citroën, as a manufacturer, they're going to be right up there. Really, really impressed with Techeetah last year. And this year, going to be even better with this man as well. Andre Lotterer, he's in his second year of Formula E. Vernon Lotterer, Gendre is what they are known as, the love couple, the love teammates, and he did well last year, Lotterer. A few crazy crashes he almost caused, and even ramming into the back of Jean-Eric Vergne in Chile, so he's definitely a feisty character in Formula E for sure. A lot of fun to watch, and I think he'll have a much better year. So Techeetah are going to be a big name in Formula E Season 5. Now, another team that I really find hard to place this year, NIO. Love the livery, really do. It's one that divides people, but I think it looks sexy as. I really do. That white and then fades into that almost Formula E blue. Love it, love it, love it. A team that, again, have struggled in Formula E. They manufacture electric supercars, so that's what they do in the real world, if you will. But they've got this man, Oliver Turvey, ex-McLaren, young driver, test driver, all that nonsense. And in Formula E, he had a difficult start, to be totally honest with you. But he's excelled last year, really dragged that car up, which again was a car that probably should have been at the back of the grid. He had two teammates, Luca Filippi, who got 1 point all season, and then Marc Inquart, who stalled on the grid in his one race and didn't even make it off the line, just ended up DNFing on the spot. So the fact that he got a podium, second place, and could have been a win in Mexico if his pit stop had gone better, that shows you that this guy is a real deal. And this man next to him, Tom Dillman, is a real special talent once again. I think he's only 23, French driver, has done stints in Formula E before, and in the last race of last season, drove for Venturi instead of Mortara, picked up a 4th place. This guy, I really like Tom Dillman, and he'll do well next year. Mahindra, the Indian electric car company. Now, they've been in since Season 1, and I have picked up wins. Now, it's a very sort of, I suppose, strange situation that they're in, because their actual drivers for the first race are going to be Felix Rosenqvist, someone who I loved in Formula E, rated so highly. He picked up all 3 wins for Mahindra over their history. But he's not going to be in the car this year, for whatever reason. He's going off to IndyCar, but for the first race, where Pascal Wehrlein isn't able to drive because of he's still in contract with Mercedes for the rest of the year, it'll be Rosenqvist. But Jerome D'Ambrosio, he, I believe, has 3 wins in Formula E so far in his career. 7 podiums. Ex-Formula 1 driver, Lotus, probably the most notable team he drove for that one-off race. But he also did stints at Virgin. A solid driver, but it is this man, Pascal Wehrlein, that the focus is going to be on. Another driver I think could be in the running for the title. I really do. I love this guy. I really loved him in Formula 1, and I believed he should have had a chance. So I think keep your eye out for Pascal Wehrlein. He's going to be one I will be supporting. 100% I'll be supporting Pascal Wehrlein. But if I'm being totally honest with you guys, I don't really have one favourite in Formula E. So this year, once again, will be a year of me finding out who my favourite sort of teams and drivers are. But I do have a couple of particular favourites. But the last team, Team 11 out of 11, the American team, Dragon. Pretty spicy name. Pretty flamey name, to be fair. And they're a team that have had some real difficulties over the past few years and will want to cement their place almost a little bit higher up this year. Maybe pick up a few podiums. Weren't able to do so last year. So this year they will want to improve massively. They've kept the services of Jose Maria Lopez. Someone who, again, a very fiery tempo as Jose Maria Lopez. Solid driver. I think was just outscored by last year's teammate Jordan D'Ambrosio, but D'Ambrosio at the end of the season got a few almost fluky results, if you will, managed to pull off some crazy qualifying results, and that really helped him out in the standings. But over the season, Lopez was the better of the two, so they've kept his services, and alongside him is going to be Maximilian Gunther, the man who drove for Arden this year in Formula 2, picked up 2 podiums in Formula 2 in Bahrain and at Silverstone, both in the sprint race, so the second race, which arguably isn't as impressive. Had a difficult year in Formula 2, only getting 14th, finished behind Roberto Merri, but the team situation there was a little bit difficult. He missed out the final round of the season, so I would expect better from Maximilian Günther in Formula E. I think he's a talent. Don't expect a championship fight. I think that's far too much to expect. But I love the fact that some of these teams are taking some young drivers, and that young drivers are really taking a chance on Formula E at the moment, because you see drivers like Mitch Evans who take a couple of years to learn the sport and are really becoming superstars. And I think Günther definitely could be one of those kind of drivers. And that is your 22 drivers and 11 teams for Formula E Season 5. Now, I did say at the beginning that I might give you a few sort of tips on who I think you maybe should support. And if I'm being honest, it's a difficult one, obviously, because, you know, we all like drivers for different reasons. I really like Ollie Rowland. He'll be someone I'm looking at this year, Pascal Wehrlein and Stoffel Van Dorn. And I imagine a lot of the ex-Formula 1 drivers will be a lot of your favourites, so I'd look that way. Impressive drivers that probably will go under the radar if you've never seen Formula E before are the likes of Lucas Di Grassi. He can always pull a result out. He really can. He's one that did not great things in Formula 1, but in Formula E has done really well. Sam Bird, I would add to that list of drivers that probably aren't recognised. And I think Felix da Costa is another one that's going to do special things this year. But all I can say is that give it a go. I keep saying it, you just got to give it a go. You got to give it a try. It's live on YouTube, so there's no excuse to say that you can't watch it. It's free. It's on platforms all over the place. And if you give it a go, you don't like it, you don't have to watch it again. It's just half an hour out of your day. Why not? Why not give it a go? But like I said earlier, next week will be Formula E week, so a video on Formula E every single day. Aren't you guys lucky? Very lucky. But there will be Formula 1 content as always. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.